Hi, I'm Edgar Hernandez.
And I'm Nuri Robles. And this is
Bar Talking
Bar, your access to the heartbeat of New York City's bar and hospitality scene.
Hosted straight from the city that never sleeps, we sit down with bartenders, brands and ambassadors, hospitality pros, and cocktail lovers.
Whether it's the art of bartending, the hustle behind hospitality, or the wildest bar tales, expect raw conversations and industry secrets.
Listen to the people who pour your favorite cocktails and keep the nightlife alive.
If you love bars, spirits, and the stories that bring them to life, follow us, share, and subscribe to keep the conversations flowing.
The podcast that you didn't know you need.
New episodes weekly.
Welcome back to another episode of Bar Talking Bar. I'm your host, Edgar Hernandez.
And I'm Nuri Robles with a better voice.
Because better voice.
Edgar está enfermito, a little sick.
It's the weather. There's nothing we can do about the weather right now.
Pobrecito.
But I wish I had this voice all the time.
Sexy,
That's
sexy
what they say.
voice. Sexy voice. How you doing?
Pretty good. Well, welcome for another week. We want to start by introducing our guest today.
With a beautiful eyes.
Yeah, you have beautiful eyes.
Yeah,
Thank you.
beautiful eyes. So, please.
Without further ado, let me introduce Garret Dostal. Am I saying that right?
Garret Dostal.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for having me. New York is cooling down now, so it is a little chillier, but it is a beautiful day. My name is Garret Dostal, and I work in the liquor industry as a brand ambassador currently. And ironically enough, I never ever thought I would work in liquor.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
I grew up in a very interesting place called Texas. Beautiful state. But where we were, it was actually a dry county, meaning that alcohol is illegal to be sold inside the entire county. So you couldn't buy alcohol anywhere inside of where we were. You'd have to drive about 15 minutes to any of the borders. And it also is in a town called White House, which is kind of in East Texas, right along what they call the Baptist Bible Belt. Okay. So right across where a lot of the religions live. Mm. So growing up, everyone was very abstinent only, drugs are bad, no alcohol. It was just part of the culture.
So it's like a very religious
area. And although like my family may not have been, Baptist or super, super religious in that way, most of the people I was surrounded by were. So I never, ever, ever thought I would end up in spirits because it was just something you didn't do. We didn't drink on the weekends. I was one of those rare kids that didn't even drink until they turned 21.
Do you remember what was the first drink?
Yeah, so I first started getting exposed with my friends. I'd go out drinking with them, and they would have, like, cocktails, and they'd give me, like, their brandied cherry. Or they'd give me their fruit that was soaked or macerated in whatever. And they'd be like, it's not alcohol, it's just the fruit. Yeah. And so it kind of, like, started before I was 21. But when I turned 21, the first drink I had was, I believe, technically the first cocktail was, like, a margarita. Because it was, like, a big night at the summer theater I was working at, and everyone, like, celebrated happy birthday and started teaching me how to drink drinking games.
But was that your birthday or was that somebody else's birthday?
No, it was actually my birthday. Like when I turned 21, I was in the middle of a summer theater in Okoboji, Iowa. And that's kind of while we were there, just when it struck, the clock struck 21, one of my friends came out and grabbed me out of my cabin and dragged me into the party everyone else was having.
You deserve to have a drink.
Yep, and then that was, they all decided I was having a drink. So, it was time to join the party. And so from then on for the rest of the summer, got to hang out with the adult kids and actually like get a hang out and drink and stuff. But yeah, I actually started in the industry working at Burger King.
Okay.
Not the normal start for a lot of the guests you've had on the podcast.
We actually, the number one guest we had, he started in Burger King as well.
Really?
Me too.
Really?
Yeah, we're
Well, it's a great spot. And, it's an interesting way to learn the food industry through the expedition of fast food.
I know that you were flipping burgers, right?
I was flipping burgers, but at the same time, I was like making the burgers. I was on the line folding it because I was really quick at it.
Nice.
Cool.
But yeah, so I started like the industry in like burgers. And then when I went to college, I never thought the industry would be a long-term thing for me. It was very much like a want to get paid, you need a job in high school kind of moment. Yeah. And then I went into acting. So I went to Stevens Women's College in Columbia, Missouri. Always been a man, always will be a man, always plan on being a man. But when I went to Stevens, I got a scholarship for being a male at a female's college. The program doesn't exist anymore. But it was a good experience. And so, I went to get my degree in acting. So I got a bachelor's in fine arts and acting. And then it was while I was still in college that I turned 21 and started getting exposed to spirits in a very, professional way, drinking with friends, lighthearted kind of things, and learned, the positive side and the negative side of drinking rather quickly. Because during those late summer nights, people tend to drink a lot. And then I got my degree in acting and I planned to go do that. So I moved back down to Texas. And when I was in Texas, I learned quickly that there is not a lot of acting in Texas. Most of the acting in Texas is like traveling shows. So like Broadway coming through or Shakespeare, coming through the state. Less of regional theaters creating art. And if they are, it's less of like a paid gig. It's more of we do this because we love it on the weekends. And we have a full-time office job, but we're also actors.
Yeah.
And what was your goal to be an actor of movie, theaters, television?
Well, the college program that I went to kind of exposed us to everything. So have done film work, have done stage work, have done lots of different things. And at that time, I didn't really have like a hard 5-year plan in mind. It wasn't like, I'm going to go do this. It was more of like, I can get a role somewhere and I can just audition, but there wasn't a lot of auditioning. So that was the, going from college where you are forced into auditions to having to go into real life where you have to find an audition. Big jump. So I think I was going to go for stage originally. But that first year after college, when I turned 21, sadly my mother passed away. And when she passed away, it's a hard time in someone's life, but at the same time, we always hope that we outlive our parents. Yeah. Parents shouldn't have to see their kids leave them, but it's also hard the other way around when we see them leave.
Yeah, especially at that age. I mean, you're kind of still like a young person, and I think that for you it should be like, you want to show your mom and everything. But I guess your mom out there is seeing you.
She's still watching. Yeah. I feel she's still here.
Yeah, our moms are
in our culture, Mexico, we're Mexicans. We celebrate their dead, not because somebody dies, but we remember them with passion and with love and all the good things. And in our culture also, our gods never punish us for being bad or good. It was just like, we'll guide you, we'll train you. With like, and it took me some time to understand that part, because I know religion is one thing, but when you put it into your heart, it doesn't matter how many religions you believe in. It's just your heart, and put it in there. But okay. So
what happened after?
So that was kind of like the formidable point that kind of moved more towards the liquor side of my world. So went from being a trained actor, getting my bachelor's degree, wanting to do that. Mother passed away. Dad was a Vietnam vet, so a very strong man. Obviously never shows his emotions. So I moved back down home with him for about 6 months. And at the end of the 6 months, he said, you either get off this couch and find a job, or I'm going to kick you out of the house. Because he also needed his own time to grieve in his own way. So that's kind of when I started looking back towards, service and things and trying to find something that I could find in the meantime. And in acting, they always said you can get a restaurant job if need be. It's always a good transition for the actors. And in New York, most people who move here do start in bars or restaurants.
Exactly.
So I actually found a bar college in Dallas, and I went to a bar college. So also not, your typical bar. But also the crazy thing is, like, in Texas, it's not like New York. In New York, there's bar colleges where every random person has a bar college in their closet, and they'll claim to give you a certificate for learning how to bartend. It's not like that. There was only one, and it was the one, and my understanding was it was founded by a group of individuals that wanted to have better employees work with them. So they kind of founded their own bar school to kind of teach and train them. And then they would hire them out to like their catering agency. And they did everything from the Dallas Cowboy Stadium to a lot of like the wealthy oil wealth of, like Highland Park in Dallas, So,
wow.
It was a good education. It was a proper education. It was the bar education I wish more people had when they quote unquote say they went to bar school.
I wish I went.
Yeah, I mean, but, to each their own. We're all on our own journey, and I learned quicker, faster there than I probably would have being thrown in. So, like, I didn't start as a dishwasher or a bar back or a server. I kind of tried starting as a bartender. But in Texas, bar schools are not, at the time, were not a thing, so people didn't know what that was. So you go into to go apply for a job, and they're like, hey, so what experience do you have? Well, I went to bar college. That's not a thing. No, it is a thing. No, that's not a thing, because no one had heard of it. So everywhere I went was like, no, we're not hiring you. You need to be a dishwasher and then move into a busser and then turn into a server, then turn into a bar back. And I just wanted a job. And like being a very intellectual person, I always think that you can learn skills. Yeah. And I went to bar college. So in my mind, I was going to find a job, and I did. So I found a job at a sushi bar. and they hired me as a bartender, and started working there. Was their head bartender in like a month. The brother's sister stole me over to her bar, which she had, and I was their head bartender for a couple months. And that was before I moved to New York to join some of my friends who were up here from theater school, who were working on Broadway lighting design and stuff. And then when I landed here, of course, what's the first thing you do? You need to find a job. So I landed back in the industry, and I've kind of stuck there ever since.
And this is when?
This was around 2012. I think that was my first year. Yeah. So I've been in New York for about 13 years now.
Wow. So cool. How does it feel now? Like, do you consider yourself now a New Yorker? They say once you live past 3 years in New York, you're already a New Yorker no matter what.
Yeah.
You live in the process.
You know.
Yeah.
In Texas, they say, like, you're never a Texan unless you're born there.
Yeah.
So I kind of have that mentality because, like, I was transplanted to Texas. My family moved a lot. And so it's a similar thing, you know, I'm transplanted to New York. So, like, in my mind, I consider myself more a New Yorker than most. But I still don't consider myself an official New Yorker.
Yeah.
You know?
No. Yeah, that's the thing, yeah. Because that's what I was told when I first came to the United States. They say, if you stay here for longer than 3 years, you already become a New Yorker.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter where you come from. What were you about to say?
No, I was going to say something silly, but, like, definitely.
You can say it.
Yeah, I know. I don't hear the Texan accent. Like, usually,
Yeah.
you know, like the cowboy.
Well, that comes from acting.
Yeah.
You know, they try to teach you to have a very flat dialect. But if you get me in the room with my dad long enough, or if you get me in the phone with some of my friends from Texas, every so often it'll like drop back in and I'll start having a little bit of a drawl. And people call me on it. They're like, I see it now. I see your Texan.
That's so cool.
That's
Yeah.
so cool.
And are you a cowboy fan?
You know, growing up, I actually was. I'm not a big sports guy now because the industry takes up too much of my time. I feel like you have to be really dedicated to have a full-time job and be a fan of an organization. But growing up originally, yeah, I had like Dallas Cowboy swag and stuff. Even when I wasn't in Texas, before Texas, when I was a little kid, I was a Cowboys fan.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So once you started working here and, you know, you tried to do your acting and everything, how was that transition of like being focused on acting and then you were like distancing yourself?
Yeah.
How was it?
Well, there's a steep learning curve in New York where you learn things really quick. And to be an actor in New York at the time, a lot of it was like cattle calls, which is like a big audition. They, you know, anyone can come, kind of like a bar call. You know, you're doing an open bar call. Anyone can come, bartend for a couple minutes. You see what they do. Same thing with acting, but you'd have to wake up super early to go do it. So you'd have to wake up at like 5, 6 a.m. to wake up, get dressed, you know, look pretty,
And wait.
and then go wait in line until you get called. And there could be 200-300 people in line trying to do this. But on top of that, you have a bar job. And, you know, at that time, it was pre-COVID, so we had bars open till 4 a.m. Yeah. And you work till 4. You have a 12-hour shift. And then to get home might take you 45 minutes to an hour because you have to live outside the city because you're not making a lot of money. So, yeah, I learned quickly that they weren't going to work together. And for me, I kind of stopped trying to interview and stopped trying to act and kind of fell more into the industry side because I had a stable job and I needed to, you know, pay off the student loan debt I got and kind of pay off my bills. And I was kind of trying to still figure out what did I want to do. Because I knew the one thing I didn't want to do was stand in line all day to get told no.
You know, sometimes we said this, that in many cases, all generations grow up with the idea of like, oh, hospitality is not a profession because you don't have the degree. What was the reaction of your dad?
You know, they for the longest time, they kept saying, well, when are you going to act? You know, because in their mind, you know, they helped. You know, I took out a bunch of student loans, but I got a college degree. And like, well, you're not using your degree. When are you going to act? When are you going to act? Which is kind of funny because a lot of parents are like, please don't be an actor. Like, go find a real job. But for my parents, they're more like, when are you going to act? And they knew that I was good. You know, I was paying my bills. I wasn't having to ask for money. So they knew I was stable. But in the back of their mind, they're like, when are you going to do this thing you wanted to do? And little did they know I act every day. You know, when you're bartending, you act like you like people all the time. It is a show.
It is a show.
Sometimes you have to act like you like your colleagues. Sometimes you have to, you know, just be happy and wake up and pretend that it's a great day when it's not. Yeah. It's a show no matter what. So I still act every day. It's just in a very different way.
But I mean, that's cool because I was going to say that it helps a lot. And I think that, you know, you have that knowledge on how to like put your emotions back, and you know, if like you said, if it's a hard day for you, you keep with the show, but also you try to make the guests feel like have a good experience, and rather to put yourself on the front.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you. So you moved to New York and you started working as a bartender immediately,
It took a bit. When I first moved to New York, everyone was saying it's almost impossible to get a job as a male and a bartender and be from outside the city because people want New York experience, which is a real thing. It really is. And people don't understand that like bartending in New York is very specific, just like I assume bartending in Mexico City would be very specific. But those skills are quickly learned. They're not as, widely spread as people make it sound, where like if you've never bartended here, you'll never be able to.
Yeah.
But you do need to understand it. So, and the other thing was males, because at the time, almost all the bars were only looking for, very attractive women who can get more money out of their guests. And I went and interviewed at a lot of bars where that was the case, where, it doesn't matter how attractive you are. It's more about how attractive are you as a female.
I feel like, depending also the situation, because other places, they look for like males, but also they look for like certain, standards of beauty for them, which also Edgar says that, right? Like before, I think the hospitality industry it has changed a lot, but before it was more like having a poster boy or a poster girl, rather than someone that probably has more experience, more skills and everything.
Or somebody who's just willing to learn, honestly. You don't really need to have that experience. The experience you're going to acquire while you're doing it, it's just muscle memory. And, sometimes if you're not exposed to that environment, whether it's a restaurant that is busy or not busy, if it's a dive bar or if it's an upscale, whatever kind of bar it is, if you're not exposed to that environment, you're never going to, learn, be better, and whatever happens. But yeah, we always say this, being a poster boy doesn't necessarily have to be, that you're the face of the restaurant.
Sure.
Because at the end of the day, believe it or not, if you're a bartender, you can't like hide the face because somebody's coming to you. And the only thing you have to do is be nice, say hi, how are you? This is a cocktail that I have for you. It's not science, not rocket science. It's just basically, hospitality.
When I met you, I remember that you also mentioned that you were doing dinners in your apartment or something like that.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of transitions. So I started as a bartender, and then from bartending, I worked at that bar for quite a while. No free publicity, so I won't say the names. But then I started feeling kind of worn out and kind of feeling, I don't want to use taken advantage of, but kind of like, I didn't find an out. There's no way to get rid of here without like my friend who was the owner, getting upset that I was leaving because, they want to keep their employees. So I ended up going to college, and that has been an escape for me often as education. So I went, first time I was like, I got to get out of here. No, I'm so sorry. I'm going to go to clown college. And people are like, what? Yeah, I went to clown school.
Oh, yeah.
So
I remember that part, yeah.
So I took out from New York and went to Blue Lake, California, to Del Arte International, to clown school, the School of Commedia dell'arte, the school of like Italian mask work, and enjoyed that for about a year, and then came back to New York City, and then kind of landed in the same bar with my friend who was kind of struggling at the time. I wanted to help him. Once again, kind of felt trapped. And I was like, well, how do I get out of this? So I went and got my master's degree. I was like, oh no, education, oh no. So I got my master's degree in strategic leadership, very specific degree, more focused on how do you work with people, how do you take random people that you've never met before and make them work together in a situation, which I feel is the industry. Our industry is constantly just random people in a room working together.
Exactly.
So it's really good for us. And then from there, I started working at a wine shop, and that wine shop kind of moved me into working into their cellar, where I was doing more organization, more strategy, which tied into the degree, which was nice. Then I kind of became a purchasing agent. From there, kind of moved more into brand ambassading. And then I was found by a tequila company, and they offered me a job, so I started brand ambassading for them. I was doing that for about 5 years, and I'm with these guys. Love Widow Jane.
Yeah.
But when I was with the last brand, for a minute there, the hospitality goes in all directions. And the relationships, it's such a relationship industry, where one of the ways I was doing relationships was having people come over and do private dinners in my apartment, where I would cook for everyone, or if they wanted to, they could bring a dish, but they weren't required to. But I had a table that seated about 15 in my very small apartment that would fold out and fold back up when they needed it to. Might start that back up again. We'll see.
Well, let us know. I wanna be part of it.
Yeah,
We would
I
love to be part of it.
remember that you were telling me like I'm gonna do something. So we really want to go.
Yeah, and that's back when we made you, because I remember meeting you at USBG. There was I forgot. I think it was Intense in somewhere like in Industry City.
So it's been a minute.
If I'm not mistaken. But that was when we met you, and ever since we met you, you're such a nice person.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. And so what was the spirit like in your experience that you said like, oh, I love this spirit?
the bar that I started working at was more of like a whiskey-focused bar, and then I started working in more of like a vodka-focused bar, and then I started like kind of like experimenting more with gin, and I love education. It was my out, but it's also like my joy. So like when working in adult bars, I'd research the spirits. So I hated tequila for forever. It was always my least favorite spirit. It's also the one that I had the first when I started drinking. It's the one we drank the most of at summer camp. Yeah, I got burnt out on tequila at that beautiful theater camp. But while we were there, one of my friends was working at a tequila bar in the city, and she kind of re-exposed me to it. Amanda, absolutely love her. But she kind of like brought me into the world of real tequila. Had Fortaleza, Siete Leguas, Sausa, a bunch of different things, and got to see the high and the low of the industry, and kind of got walked through it by someone who knew more than I did, which is always impressive, because I do like love collecting knowledge.
The little Garrett Wikipedia.
Hey, if you ever need anything, you can always message me. People still Instagram me quickly for tequila facts.
Yeah, that's so cool.
But yeah, so I kind of fell in love with tequila there. It was like the first one that I really fell in love with. When I first turned 21, one of my college professors presented to me a box of whiskey. And we kind of drank that around the bonfire together, and kind of like it was a really formative moment for me of like, now you're an adult, you're drinking whiskey with a good friend of yours. So I loved whiskey. Whiskey was always there, but like tequila was my first passion, my first love. Went down to Mexico, got to see a lot of fun stuff. Went down to Guadalajara, Tonala, Tlaquepaque, a lot of cool spots. That's part of the reason why I worked in it. And now I'm blessed because Widow Jane's actually owned by Heaven Hill, which also has like Tequila Ocho and Mezcal Vago. So still getting to play with them, just in a little bit more distant way, and focused more on this brand. But moving back to like the original whiskey, the original spirit I had and my original passion was whiskey. It was the first one that I knew that I was comfortable drinking. And when I was around friends and stuff, they might get some crazy drink that I'd never heard of, but I could always get, an Irish whiskey, or I could always get something poured neat. And luckily, this brand is absolutely delicious, beautifully in a cocktail or neat. So it makes it a lot easier to drink for me.
It is, and honestly. You know what? One of the things that really surprised me and that I'm actually blown away, it's that Widow Jane, the baby Jane, took 6 years to come up with their own heirloom variation. Can you talk to us a little bit about it? I know a little bit, but I want to hear from you, from the person who explains it so perfectly.
Yeah.
So I want to introduce you guys to Widow Jane. It's an amazing brand. It's a New York local brand. So we're literally here in Red Hook, Brooklyn. Launched in 2012. So this is our 13th year. We had our 13th anniversary this year. Absolutely proud and happy of that. But we've had a lot of different spirits. You just mentioned Baby Jane, which is kind of one of our newer projects. And I can start there. But we originally launched with the 10-year, which is kind of rare for a bourbon company. Bourbon only really has to be like 2 to 4 years, but we launched with a 10-year bourbon. And at the time, it was also less seen in the market. Now you have like certain brands that are like 9-year, 8-year, but there was a lot less of that back then. So it was kind of strange to start there. But we started with the 10-year bourbon, and at the time, it was technically illegal to distill in New York City. You could not make spirits. You could blend, you could batch, you could have a lot of the volatile chemical, but you couldn't make it because making it was seen dangerous. And this is actually a law that like translated all the way back from Prohibition days, all the way up until 2012. And we were one of the brands that actually helped fight the New York State government to allow distillation to happen in the city again. In 2007, there was a Farm to Table Act, which tried to make food more available to the city and to bring more revenue to the city and to people in New York State. And we kind of like tagged into that and started looking at spirits. Why can't we do spirits that way? So the 10-year, when we first started, was really a blending mentality. And we acquire the best bourbons from the best bourbon regions. We blend Kentucky, Indiana, Tennessee together and create this beautiful 10-year spirit. But then when we finally changed the rules and we were allowed to distill, that's kind of where Baby Jane comes from. So we had to stop and think as a bourbon company, what makes bourbon special? And bourbon really has like 2 unique ingredients. It's mainly just water and corn. So what we did is, how do you do corn better? And us being like a Brooklyn brand, this, like really crafty, hippy dippy, very Brooklyn mentality towards things. We were like, better corn comes from nature. It doesn't come from genetically engineering. It doesn't come from modifying. It doesn't come from creating corn. It comes from going back to real corn. Yeah. So we went to seed banks all the way across the country trying to find corn and to try to get different varietals to test and see what might make a better bourbon. And all the seed banks were very scared. Everyone was scared that there's this weird company in New York that's trying to collapse the corn market or something. But they went around and they were able to get roughly 15 varietals. And they gave us like 1 to 5 pound bags, very small quantities of corn. Because once again, the seed banks started talking to each other and heard that we were collecting more of it. And it was very scary. And some of these had never been grown in New York per se. We got stuff from California, all over the world, and the country. And we grew it upstate New York. Out of those, the farmer that we were growing with said that two were really doing well. The deer ate these ones. The winter killed these ones. So there's corn's corn. And if it's never been grown here, it might not be the right climate, Yeah. It's its own plant. But out of those two grew really well. One was called Wapsie Valley, this beautiful yellow corn that's very like buttery and rich, kind of like buttered popcorn. And then the other one was Bloody Butcher. And other brands have used Bloody Butcher, but it's kind of like dark, leathery, tobacco cigar-esque with just the quality of the corn. So we took those two, grew them again to try to get enough to actually make a bourbon batch. They ended up cross-pollinating into a new species. Wow. So they made their own little nature baby. We said no. We said abstinence only. And they said, no, we're having a baby. And they did. So we named it Baby Jane because it's a new varietal of corn. It had no name. It had no species. So we got to name it. So we put our mark on it, Jane, Widow Jane. And then also we called it Baby Jane because it's this new little baby species. Yeah. So it took 6 years to get the point. And I have some of the corn here. It's this beautiful red corn. But it took 6 years to get to the point of just having the corn.
I'm going to try to make it, but it's very, very red.
Yeah.
I love it.
And then it took another 6 years to be able to actually produce it. So last year was actually our first year to be able to release because it took 12 years from the conception of this project to the actual, being able to make the bourbon. And corn's a huge part of it, but the other side is the water. And so even with the 10-year, when we started, we were trying to find a good source of limestone water. Because in Kentucky, they say that limestone water is so important to what makes the bourbon special. And so we luckily had some great connections across the state, and we met people up in Rosendale, and we now partner with them. And they pull water out of this abandoned mine called the Rosendale Mines. And one of the entrances is called the Widow Jane Mine. That's where we kind of get our name from.
The Widow Jane.
And so our brand is very New York. It's a combination of Rosendale meets Red Hook, aggregating local agriculture to make this really cool brand. So this beautiful limestone natural mineral water mixed with this beautiful corn makes this beautiful Baby Jane, which is younger than our most brands. It's only 4 to 6 years. We were going to release it at 10, but it drinks like a 10-year. It's very sophisticated. It's very rich.
It is.
And they should set some aside. So in the future, you probably will see an aged expression, like a higher one. Yeah. It'll probably have a different name, though. It won't be Baby Jane. Baby Jane will probably always be there in her own unique
Grandpa
way.
Jane.
Yeah, you never know.
How long is this aged?
Yeah, so the Baby Jane is 4 years. So most of our brands are a straight bourbon. And a straight bourbon, specifically by governmental definition, has to be at least 4 years. And if you're not going to have an age statement on it. So if it's younger than 4 years, you need to put the age. But if it's at least 4 years, you don't have to. And Baby Jane is a non-age statement bourbon. So it's at least 4 years old. So like this one right now is a blend of 4 to 6. That might change a little bit here and there. We're a big blending house. We like to blend lots of different ages together. But we found this nice sweet spot where you get the beautiful corniness of the corn, but then you still have a little bit of that kind of like more subtle note of that like that minerality that comes with the water. And it just creates a beautiful, beautiful kind of bourbon with the caramelization of the wood.
Yeah.
Talking about that, can we taste it?
Please.
Thank you.
Yeah, because I'm
And also, like, I know there's a lot of expressions here, but the Baby Jane is the one you guys kind of like created or came up with. This smells so good.
And also, we are very lucky because Garrett brought us this.
Well, I've been watching the podcast, and you guys got some beautiful copitas and other things. So I figured you need a proper whiskey glass.
Yeah,
With the Jane brand as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here.
Cheers, friends.
Cheers. Oh, I love that sound.
So a lovely Glencairn really opens up the nose.
Yeah. And also, just to let you know, I mean, probably you know, but I am a bourbon person.
Yeah.
I love it.
She loves bourbon.
And I'm so
And
freaking
rum.
happy because this is the first time in the show that we have a bourbon or
Yeah.
whiskey. So you're inaugurating our whiskey.
Yay! Love it.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show.
And especially that's a New Yorker brand as well.
Yeah, like, so this podcast is dedicated to, brand ambassadors, cocktail lovers, bartenders. It doesn't matter if you are back a house. We're going to be interviewing also chefs. But the fact that you, take the time to be here and showing us all this line, I think that's awesome. Not only because of the Baby Jane, but also the 10-year. Give us a little bit of the history in there. What about this 13-year here? What is this all about?
Yeah, so when we started with the 10-year, we launched that. It was very successful. People loved it. Got world's best small batch bourbon in 2022. Got platinum at International Spirits. So it's gotten a lot of awards behind it. Then we started the Baby Jane program. It took a long time. So while that was happening, the stills needed something in them. So we started a rye program. We really believe that all good American whiskey companies should make a rye because it was the original spirit of America.
Yeah.
When the colonists landed in America, they brought rye whiskey with them. We need to remember that corn came from America to the rest of the world, while rye came to America. So when you think of like the founding of America, you think of the Whiskey Rebellion, you think of like the American Revolution getting paid in whiskey. They were all drinking rye whiskey. And it wasn't until later on where bourbon started coming around with Elijah Craig and Kentucky's being founded and that kind of mentality. So the ryes were then created. And then after the ryes were created, we started looking at our stocks. So 10 years really good. Baby Jane didn't get launched till last year. Ryes are doing well. And we had a couple barrels that were just so unique that kept getting kind of pushed by the wayside, kind of just set aside because they were good. They were great whiskeys. They just didn't fit into the what is the 10-year flavor profile. And as a blending house, we're very complex in what we do. We really look for different notes in the whiskey. And where some people might blend one flavor, they're kind of looking for what is the flavor of X, Y, or Z. We actually look for very specific key indicator like flavors inside of it. So it's more complex. It's like when you're cooking, you're not just looking for chocolate mousse. You're looking for enough chocolate, enough coffee, enough espresso, all those kind of deeper, richer notes. So some of these barrels just kind of fit outside that box, and they kept getting set by the wayside. And then eventually our master blender, Sienna, amazing woman, does a great job with what she does, went down to the distillery and she was looking at these barrels that they kept talking about. She pulled samples of all of them. And then she brought them back up to the office and she was like, wait a minute. And she had this idea. So she started making a little micro blend. And all of our whiskeys literally start with a graduated cylinder about this tall and a bunch of tiny bottles. And they put like 5 milliliters, 5 milliliters, 5 millimeters, stirred, smell, taste. What does that taste like? What's it missing? We need more green. And they'll find the bottle that has more green. They'll taste it again. Like, no, too much green now. Now we need a little more cherry. And they literally will sit there and play this kind of like science game.
Wow.
Well, the Lucky 13, they were so unique that they came up with this really unique blend. And there were only like 13 bottles left of like this section, and they were roughly about 12 years old, so they decided to wait till they were 13 years old to be able to release them, and they did. So we have the Lucky 13 release. So it's no longer like that original barreling that's way been sold through, but it's now blended every year in the same mentality. Okay. So it's a little bit more sophisticated, and it has its own core. Where a lot of whiskey brands, you kind of like look at aging, and it's just a little bit older. It's just a little bit older. It's just a little bit older. Ours are really very unique things. So even the 13, it's a different blend, different concept, different reality than the 10-year. But, it has similarities because it's coming from a similar stock, a similar family, a similar palate. Yeah. But it's not just like an older 10. It's a different kind of skew, but it's absolutely delicious.
I have a question for these bottles. Like, for example, where are the names from? Do you know what?
Yeah, so all of the names come from the team. They developed the names. So, like, the 10-year was really easy. We are Widow Jane. We made a 10-year. Call it a day. Super easy name. Baby Jane kind of fell into fruition, They had a baby, and we're Widow Jane, so we named it Baby Jane. When it comes to some of the others, it comes to what it is. Like Lucky 13, there were roughly 13 barrels left. They were almost 13 years old. Perfect name for it, Lucky 13. Mm-hmm. Our ryes, they kind of have a different naming structure, which is kind of unique. The Paradigm rye, it's called Paradigm. Paradigm's a weird word in English that kind of means like a new take on something or a new perspective. So it's a new paradigm. So our belief was when we were making that rye, how do we make rye? As Widow Jane, what does a rye look like for us? And we were trying to make a rye that was very approachable for rye drinkers, but also for bourbon drinkers, because bourbon drinkers and rye drinkers are very different. Yeah, I know. And often bourbon drinkers hate rye drinkers hate bourbon drinkers. If you are a rye drinker, you're very specific. You only drink Kentucky, only drink in like New York, or you only drink like Dickel, like super, super specific like rye drinkers. So we came up with this beautiful like concept of how to do our rye. So once again, it's a blend. And that's kind of one of the unique things about us is we're blending from regions. So it uses some New York that we make on site. It uses some from Kentucky and some from Indiana. Kentucky's a little bit sweeter usually when it comes to their production methodologies. Indiana's a little bit more spicy, has that like runway down the middle of your tongue. Yeah. And then because we use that mine water, that beautiful limestone-rich water, it kind of rounds out more for a bourbon drinker. We weren't trying to make a rye for bourbon drinkers per se, but it kind of came out to like a nice bourbon drinker's rye because it has that nice softness that comes with the coating, that comes with the limestone water. So that's kind of like where the name Paradigm came from, is we were trying to find a new paradigm, a new perspective on what is rye. It's not just another harsh, burny, bitey spirit, but how does Widow Jane do rye? What is our perspective? And that's kind of where that came. Yeah. And then the Applewood is really cool. I always like to tell people we met people. We're the brand who meets people. Went up to the mines, met the mine people, now have mine water. Went up to the same area, we met the maple people. We work with Crown Maple, they're upstate. And it's the one SKU I don't have here, it's called Decadence. But we actually do like a 10-year plus bourbon aged in maple syrup barrels. But we met the maple people, they wanted someone to age their maple in, so they used our barrels. And we wanted someone to age our bourbon in, so we used their barrels. Well, we were up there, we also met the apple people. And it's a really cool thing. It's called Black Swan Orchards out of Wisconsin. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it's a dad and daughter team. And they go and they buy up abandoned apple trees. A lot of times apples in our country are planted once and then the trees are cut down and replanted. We don't do like old apples for the most part. You know, in Europe and stuff, they have trees that go on forever. Yeah.
Yes.
But we do fresh trees every time because it keeps the fruit nice and sweet. And so what they'll do is you buy a plot of land, you have trees that are old, you don't want them, you just want the house and the land, they'll come cut them down. And so they'll cut them down, they'll strip off the skin, they'll cut them into pieces, they'll drill holes in them, and then they ship us these barrel staves. And so then what we'll do is we'll take these apple trees, this is just an apple tree, we'll put it in an oven and toast it to caramelize all the sugar that's trapped in the wood, and we'll just drop it in the barrel.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's just an apple tree that goes in the barrel.
You're going to say, like, this is a game that we do at...
Yeah, right?
Yeah, that's so cool.
But that's just an apple tree. And so we put that in the barrel. When the alcohol soaks in, it releases all those sugars. It's like, we call it applewood rye because it literally tastes like apple. It's got this beautiful... Yeah. It's absolutely delicious. It's one of my favorite ryes, especially for this season when you get into more like the colder climates. And it's got this really nice note to it. In New York City, at least, we've been able to get some bars and restaurants to kind of replace Calvados or Armagnac with it. Because it's not a scary word. And like in bartending, customers tend not to buy things on the menu that have scary words. You know, anytime they don't know it, they kind of avoid it when you make a menu. So we've been able to get a lot of bars to use this instead. So you have this beautiful... Oh, thank you so much.
Let me be a good host.
Be a good host. Lori Robles, your host tonight.
You know, it's when you mention about bourbon and rye, people, you're very right, because I remember when I tried rye for the first time.
Yeah.
Oh, it's kind of spicy.
And it can be.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers again.
I love
I
this.
love that sound.
Right.
I love it because, like you say, you know, like people can use it instead of Calvados or
Yeah.
Oh my
anything.
God.
So nice. Well, even people are replacing Applejack with it. Applejack's great. Comes in 2 price points. You know, sometimes the nicer price point's the nicer one, but it's a little expensive to put in a cocktail.
Yeah.
So this is a great substitute.
And what I like about it is that it doesn't really taste like apples a lot.
No.
But it takes like some of those apple notes.
Yeah.
And I don't even know how to describe it, honestly.
The way that I describe that is like, it's not a flavored whiskey.
Yes,
so it doesn't taste
exactly.
like apple flavor.
Yeah.
I like to say, to me, it tastes like eating the skin of an apple. Like if you were going to make a pie, you peel the skin and you snack on it. A little bit sweet, a little bit tart, a little bit tangy, a little bit apple.
Yeah, like green apple.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
that's
then
that
you
aroma.
get this spiciness.
And then you get that spiciness. So our ryes do have that beautiful kind of, I call it the runway, you know, the airplane landing down the middle of your tongue of that spicy herbaceousness.
Oh, wow.
But not in an aggressive way. You know, it's not like drinking a Rittenhouse or drinking like a Pennsylvania rye. It's a lot softer, but at the same time, you still get all that power that you expect in a nice rye.
Lucky 13. This is what you know caught my attention earlier because you also mentioned 13 years. You know.
Yeah. When we first started, the founder we had, and those were all the same owner. He launched as a parachute factory in the building that we had in Brooklyn, and he actually was almost completely paralyzed by falling out of an airplane when he had a parachute issue. And being an aeronautical engineer and a very savant of an individual, he decided that he was going to rebuild parachutes. And he did. He set off for like 3 or 4 years. So it literally from like 2005 until 2007, he was working on redoing parachutes. Well, he technically fixed parachutes and he sold it to the U.S. state government, and they bought the parachute concept and they put him on a non-compete so he can no longer make parachutes.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. So being a guy who was doing this for so many years, who's not allowed to do it anymore, he's like, well, what am I going to do now? He happened to be a Dominican man with great connections to his family in the Dominican Republic where they have chocolate and other things. So he decided to make a chocolate distillery. So they set out and created Cacao Prieto, which was in the distillery before Widow Jane was Widow Jane. It was Cacao Prieto. And they did raw fermented cacao chocolate. And once again, being a savant kind of guy, he actually created not just chocolate bars, but also chocolate industrial pieces. So he also had an LLC where he worked on nothing but re-engineering how do you make chocolate and how do you make it better. So he actually sold machines to other chocolate factories across the country that he created to help better improve the system. And he loved the weird, funky fermentation that comes with chocolate. A lot of people don't know, but chocolate has to be fermented. The cacao pod has to like actually go through a fermentation process before it tastes like what we expect.
Yeah, because otherwise it's going to be bitter.
Bitter, so bitter. And because of that, though, there's a lot of funky, yeasty bacteria. And that was the cool part. He's like, well, what if we made rum with that? And that kind of like set us on the mission of like fighting the government to be able to distill. And so we originally were going to be a rum distillery. But what they realized was they needed something to age the rum in. And so we ended up reaching out and finding some whiskey barrels and acquiring whiskey barrels. And they would drain the whiskey barrel to a single bottle release to use the whiskey, then use the barrels for for the rum. And then they realized people liked the whiskey so much that the rest kind of fell by the wayside. That previous owner ended up selling Widow Jane to Samson & Surrey, an amazing spirits company, which was recently acquired by Heaven Hill. So chain of events. But Samson & Surrey has brands like Tequila Ocho, Mezcal Vago, Blue Coat Gin, a lot of amazing brands. And all this time, Widow Jane has stayed Widow Jane, which is the best part. You know, she never changed. She just kept growing. But yeah, the distillery's had multiple lives.
Also, you have part of the distillery, a couple plugs from it, where you guys are aging some of the barrels.
Yeah, our rick houses are here as well. So we actually age whiskey here as well.
Yeah.
And just want to harp back once again with that blending mentality and with the rick houses. What we do, it's kind of different and unique. A lot of distilleries make a lot of whiskey. They put them on a shelf, they put them in a rick house, and they let it age. And then what happens is it ages over time, the flavors change. It can be a 15-row tall distillery, and the one on the bottom and the one on the top, over about 6 months, will taste night and day. They will taste so different. And then what they'll do is they'll find the notes to blend. Because of the height of the rick house, the different levels of evaporation, different temperatures, different humidities, it really just affects the whiskey that much.
Yeah.
And so what we do is we, like I said, it's blending the best bourbon regions. So we actually, Kentucky, Indiana, Tennessee, we bring those barrels to Red Hook and let them age in the distillery here at our rick house. So they're getting imparted by New York flavor. They say roughly like 40 to 50% of flavor comes from how did you distill it. The other like 50 to 60% comes really from how did you age it? How did you blend it? How did you use those flavors that were created in the barrel? And so most of the work's really happening, what we do here in Red Hook at our rick house in our barrel room. And it creates such a special, unique bourbon. But yeah, the distillery tours are great. You should definitely come. They do tours all throughout the week. You can book them on widowjane.com.
And what's next?
So like out of all of these, I would say like the Baby Jane, the 10-year, the 2 Rise, and the 13 are kind of a family that kind of sit within a very common core of like flavors and profiles and mentality. And then after that, it opens up. So we're an amazing distillery, a blending house. And there's pros and cons to that. Because with the blending house, you have to make the same flavor every time. Because the goal is you want it to taste the same.
Yeah.
And I didn't mention this, but we do super small batches. Like super small batches. Like the 10-year is a blend of 5 barrels. Where like it's a marketing term, small batch. You could have 100 barrels, you could have 1,000 barrels. It's whatever's small to you. It doesn't mean anything. It's not regulated. But we're doing 5 barrels, tiny, tiny, tiny batches, which creates a lot of like flavor and fluctuality. Where like a lot of whiskey homogenizes into one flavor, just kind of
Yeah.
Ours has a lot more melody. I like to call it the symphony of the whiskey.
And it's so cool because I noticed that there's also a date on the label right here and the number of the batch. So you can have something from the 2022 and then 2025 to be completely different, but in its own way.
Yeah, I mean, it'll have the same common core with a little bit of fluctuation.
Exactly, and that's the great thing.
And that's what we love is because like you should always get the same flavor in the range. So like after the 13, that's kind of where things change. So because we have a master blender, a beautiful female who does this great job with a wonderful sophistication. Sienna's great. She's got great flavor words and she's always like expanding her palate. But if you have to do the same thing every day, it gets boring. So they let her do a couple fun things, and one of them is like the vaults. So every year she gets to do a very unique program called the vaults. It's one of our more rarer whiskeys. It's one of our older whiskeys, and she gets to come up with a different mentality. And recently we've been in this kind of progression of different woods, and it's gone since 2019, and now we're in 2025. We just launched the New Year's. The one we have here is the 2024. But she gets to come up with the idea of what is it, what wood are we using? Originally it was going to be all American oaks. And then we realized there's only so many American oaks. Yeah. And so now we went a little bit further. So we went into Latin America here, and we went to Brazil. So this is the 2024 vaults, and it's using amburana, which is a rare wood from Brazil that's traditionally used for cachaça or pisco. It's kind of like cinnamon toast crunchy.
Here, I'm going to pour a little.
It's absolutely delicious.
I remember that.
But this is a minimum 15 years, goes up to about 19 years when it comes to the barrels that were blended together. And it was finished for 6 months in amburana. Amburana is like a really cool wood, but it was also kind of a curse word in the bourbon industry for a while. Because a lot of people, when we colonized the idea of amburana, when we went down, we're like, we're going to do that too. They kind of treated it like American oak. So some companies were doing like a 3-year, 4-year, 5-year age. And this wood is so fragrant.
Wow.
That like even at 6 months, like the wood is screaming in the glass, but in the best way. Like ours is delicate and complex, and it's not overpowering.
No, actually.
Wow, that's good. Oh.
Yeah. It still has the nose of Widow Jane. It still has that like soft kind of like consistency. The attack is nice and smooth. It evolves quickly into kind of that like high spicy mid-tone that kind of has like a little bit of like a nutmeg and anisey kind of note to it. And then it finishes kind of more in like a darker sugary kind of world.
Yeah, and I noticed this is a little bit warmer than this previous one we had. But it cleans, like if it finishes really, really pleasant to the palate.
Yeah.
Like you say, it's not a burning sensation. But you still feel it, like it coats you. It's
I call it the warmth, like the breath of the dragon. It warms your soul.
It was your soul, exactly,
Yeah.
and it feels really good, especially for this season. You know, like for winter, whiskey. It's the one thing I love to drink during the season.
Well, and the Vault's a super limited release. It's only made once. It will never be made again. Usually, it's only about like 2,500 bottles. We do still have a little bit of last year's available, which is the one we're talking about. So if you guys want it, you can still get it in liquor stores. You can get it at the distillery. But it is like, it's very different. And you also hit the proof thing. So when it comes to our whiskey, like that's 99. And that's probably as high as we'll ever go because of the fact that water is such an important ingredient to what we do. Mm-hmm. That mineral water coats your throat, coats your palate, protects you, and it keeps you from having what I call the American whiskey burn, that like...
No, and I feel that limestone, the limestone on the aftertaste. It's like,
it's texture.
Yeah.
People talk about whiskey as a dying category, and I don't think it is. I don't think so. A lot of the bigger houses, what they're doing is they're consolidating. They're still going to be around. Mm-hmm. They're just getting rid of some of the brands that, maybe we don't need 700 on a shelf. Maybe we only need, 100 on a shelf. So whiskey's always going to be around. It was America's spirit. It's not going anywhere. We fought rebellions over this, guys.
Oh. Yeah.
Like we have fought for our whiskey. It's going to exist. But on that
and we're going to drink it.
Oh, 100%. And I think that consolidation is going to be a good thing for the market as well, because also you do get exposed to less brands when you're not being overwhelmed by so many.
Yeah.
But it's always good to have good bartender friends who are willing to show you and bring you new bottles and teach you those fun notes, because that's what makes it special.
Yeah.
It's the story, the flavor, the perspective on it. It's not just that it's another whiskey. It's like, what is different about this whiskey?
Exactly.
And what about this one? What is different?
Yeah, so I did bring a super, super special one for you guys that I have not brought out of my closet since I was gifted it. I was gifted it at a very low volume. This is the Black Opal. This is like the pinnacle of our line. It is the most expensive whiskey that we make for many reasons. And it's absolutely delicious. And I wanted to let you guys try it and get your perspective on it.
What?
The Black Opal is literally the pinnacle of our series. It comes from a very unique blending mentality. In whiskey, you kind of have different ranges. So you have different age ranges. So you have like from roughly like 4 to probably like 4 to 8 whiskeys taste a certain way. From like 8 until probably 15, they taste a certain way. And 15 plus, they taste a certain way. Younger whiskeys are hotter. The middle tone of whiskey, that kind of like middle age group, especially like when you come to like the 10-year and stuff, you get a lot of blend of that beautiful caramelization of the wood with a lot of the robust grain of the spirit. It's not just screaming grain. And then the older it gets, it tends to get more barreled, where you get kind of like an overpowering of the barrel sensation. But that really depends on how you age and how you treat it. I think this is a very sophisticated whiskey. It's 20 years on the minimum with the blend. So it's a blend of straight whiskeys that are at least 20 years old. And they've been finished in a Mizunara oak cask, which is like a rare Japanese wood. It's a river wood. They tend to be smaller trees. It's more expensive because you get less staves per tree. Because you don't have a giant tree you can cut down. You got a little guy. And so you take some more trees to make the barrel. Super delicious.
I love the bottle shape.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful.
So it's a similar shape to our 10-year that we have, but it has those beautiful kind of like pearlizations on the top, that kind of like highlighting note. It also comes in a beautiful black kind of lantern style case with a lot of information, very descriptive. Definitely a collector's bottle. I think that one is like, you can still find it if you're lucky around 500. It's usually a little bit more. It's usually like more in the $600 range now. But it's a super premium whiskey, super delicious.
Wow.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much
Cheers,
for bringing this.
Super smooth.
Yeah.
And I have like, I don't know if I'm crazy, but I have like a umami flavor.
No,
like
for sure.
Like a mushroom thing.
Yeah, no, that Mizunara cask tends to give a little bit of that kind of like that mushroom-esque quality to it.
I was gonna say that.
This one also makes me salivate more. It tends to like kind of like really make my tongue just like seep out those beautiful digestive fluids. So it's a great drink to have with food. There's something for everyone in this family.
No, but thank you so much again. Like
No,
we
thank you.
love that the fact that you took the time to come and explain and talk to the audience. Also, if you guys want to reach out to Garrett and you haven't tasted it, if you guys needed a U-bar, his handles are going to be down here. If you guys want to visit the distillery, also,
Reach out.
Yeah. We're going to put all the information out there. Thank you. You want to say something? You want to add anything else today?
A question, like a cliche question.
Okay.
What is your favorite cocktail?
Ooh. I'm a weird one. So
He was gonna say Rob Roy.
no. I mean, Rob Roys are nice. And well, and, like, forgive me that it's not a whiskey cocktail. I have some favorite whiskey cocktails, but like, if I just want to sit down and relax and have just that moment, my favorite cocktail is technically, and this definition-wise might change for you. I was always told that a flip uses egg white, a golden flip uses a whole egg. Mm-hmm. Some people say a flip is a whole egg, so like debating on your bartending terminology, but I'm going for egg white. So I go for a Mezcal last word flip.
Oh.
Is like my like go-to like just spa day cocktail if I need to like clean my brain and just relax.
And no cream?
No.
Okay.
Classic last word with just a little bit of egg white to fluffer.
Nice.
Yeah, but a nice mezcal, and I really like, you know, a nice Karawinsky or like a Tobaziche, something that has a little bit more like consistency to it, not just like a classic Espadine, but something a little bit like more stony or bright or a little bit funkier.
More green, yes.
Yeah, but that plays with that beautiful chartreusian note of that kind of funky green chartreuse.
Oh my God, I love it.
Yeah.
You know, you just made me think about that cocktail. I think I want to try it, see how that tastes.
It's a good one. I want to shout out the Widow Jane Distillery, Sienna, the master blender, and the amazing job that her and the team do there at the distillery, and the Heaven Hill Boss team. I'm part of the Boss team, which is the bar operational and spirit specialist team. So we work with bars and restaurants and spirits. They're amazing folk, and I'm blessed to be a part of their team and to be able to present such spirits to such people.
Awesome. We are so happy and we're honored to have you here tonight. Thank you, Garrett.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to slap you. Just kidding.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for another night, day, and evening.
Don't forget to subscribe, and also remember, tip your bartender. We also have an app that you can tip us to continue this program. It's called Buy Us a Coffee. So have a good day. Have a good night.
This was Bar Talking Bar. See you later.
See you later from New York. Bye.
Bye.